let's get started then. We'll do a presentation on School of Agricultural and Wine Sciences, and we've got Celia Barril here, and she will just do the little intro, and then I'll jump in for a second, then we'll go back to the specific courses. Celia.
Thanks, Katie. So I'll be talking about courses in agriculture and wine sciences, which also includes viticulture. Yep, that's it. And we'll focus on postgraduate courses in this session. So that's me, and you can hear that I have an accent and I come from France, but I did a lot of my education in Ireland, England, and also Australia. And in fact, I came to Charleston to do my PhD in wine science. But my background is chemistry, and now in my research, I actually apply my skills in chemistry and knowledge in chemistry to understand grapevine physiology and also wine composition.
Beautiful. So this is Yindamara Wanangana. It is a Wiradjuri phrase meaning the wisdom of respectfully knowing how to live well in a world worth living in. So we often say at Charleston that our ethos is to create a world worth living in. And this we try and put into everything we do at Charleston. So all of our courses and all of our practices really do tie into this ethos. And so if you wanted to go to the next one as well, we do want to acknowledge a country, pay our respects to all First Nations elders, both past, present and future, from the lands where Charleston University students reside. So in particular, we do acknowledge the Wiradjuri, Ngunnawal, Gundungurra and Biripi peoples of Australia, who are the traditional custodians of the land where our campuses are located. And we'd like to mention the traditional custodians of the land where our students are located, which can be all over Australia, and of course some internationally. So why I study at Charleston, we have a number of reasons for this. So we'll go through them quite quickly. Thanks, Celia. So we've got online studies. So Charleston is the #1 provider of online study in Australia. We've been doing it for a long time. We have about 50% of our students studying online. So we invest in it and we know how to do it well. It's definitely not a dump all the information on the student portal and figure it out. There's a lot of contact with the teachers, the lecturers, subject coordinators, and they really do make it as interactive and engaging as they can to make sure that you are really processing all that knowledge that you need to. So we have more than 70 courses available to study online, and most of our postgraduate, well, they'll be online, but some of them will be completely online, whereas some will have residential schools paired up with that. But I think we will discuss that later on, particular to these courses. The online students also have access to our campuses, the learning centres anytime, so the library. If you are located near one of our campuses, you can definitely, you don't have to go in for classes, but you can still use those facilities. So if that just makes it a little bit easier for you to separate your studies from home or work, you can go to the library and use it for that if you'd like. You can also do yeah, definitely there's a lot of flexibility, so you can study where and when you like. So this ties into the student portal and our lecturers making the subjects very flexible. So it depends on which subjects you're studying, but there might only be a few hours a week or an hour a week where you need to actually be in kind of contact at the exact time, whereas a lot of it you can really fit that around when suits for you. So when it suits for your jobs and your other personal commitments that you might have as well. We'll go to the next one. So our academics and teaching staff are well connected. A lot of them are often, you know, working while they're teaching, or they've just come out of industry, so they do have a lot of connections there. And they can kind of push you in the right direction as to where you should specialize, or who you should seek out to look for extra work or look for help if it goes into research or things like that as well. Next one. This is over to you, Celia.
Thanks, Kenny. So why studying agriculture or wine science at Charleston? As Katie mentioned, our courses are flexible and can be studied online, and some can be studied on campus. And I'll talk about specifics when we look at particular courses in a few slides. Well, students usually study, full-time on campus or part-time online. It's all about what fits within your commitments. So if you can only complete one subject at a time, then that's perfectly fine. And it's really important, really, we view education in our courses so that it is flexible for the students and they can take it at their own pace. And that is something that really characterizes Charleston. In terms of agriculture and wine sciences, Charleston's got a very long history in agricultural and wine and viticulture education, probably dating back 50 years for wine and viticulture and over 100 years for agriculture. As well as teaching in those disciplines, the staff also completes research, and that research is most often conducted in collaboration with the industry, whether the industry is advising which questions they want answered, or whether they work with the staff in the project. So for example, we use commercial vineyards to do some of the research we conduct in viticulture. Those connections with the industry are also integrated in our teaching, whether we integrate our research into our teaching or whether we do have the industry coming to talk to our students. In terms of our facilities, we have a farm at the university, and this is a mixed farm. A large part of the farm is dedicated to continuous broad-acre cropping, mostly cereals, canola, or legume crops. But it also has a commercial scale meat, sheep, and beef enterprises. Got Australia's biggest collection of olive varieties in one plantation, pivot irrigation, vineyards, and a small orchard. While the majority of the farm is dedicated to best management practices, a small part of the farm has been sectioned off so that can be used to teaching to display common weeds, diseases, and insects of the region. And students have the opportunity and experience it all because some of the subjects uses the farm. Wagga is located, it's surrounded by diverse wine regions. We've got Rutherglen, Canberra, Young, Orange, and also lots of different agricultural industries. To our west, we have some of the best broadacre production regions in Australia. We also have the Murrumbidgee and Coleambally irrigation areas within 2 hours drive. We've got rice, cotton, vineyards, nuts, citrus, aquaculture, vegetable. It's all there, all around us. To our south, we have access to high rainfall grazing systems where wool and meat industries are, and also timber production. Dairy is also scattered across the region. And so Wagga is a major center for agribusiness, meaning that many national and global companies actually have headquarters in Wagga. We also have very vibrant and experienced professional consultancy network in the region, and we make use of those connections in our teaching. From the wine side, we have a small-scale commercial winery which students use to complete the practical component of their subjects. And so students actually use the equipment and the facilities that are employed to make commercial wine, which we also sell on campus. And so it's really good for students to have that authentic experience that then when you go into the industry, then you've already used the tools. So the first course I'm going to talk about is the Master of Agricultural Business Management. It really is, it's the equivalent of an MBA, Master of Business Administration, but specific to a career in agribusiness. You can see here disciplines of business administration, such as business management, strategic planning, finance, marketing, and so on, but they apply to agribusinesses. Like many of our courses, it includes core subjects, which all students complete, and to provide a common foundation, and also electives, so students can tailor their course to their interest. One particular subject, which is often the reason students are completing the course, is agribusiness planning. It ties in all aspects of marketing, supply chain, economics, agribusiness to develop a 5-year strategic plan, which students can complete on their workplace or their own family enterprises. So really tailoring your studies to something you care about and that matters to you. In the master, students can also complete a small dissertation on a topic of your choice, and with supervision from a staff in the agribusiness discipline. So the master is actually articulated, and the 3 postgraduate courses that I'm talking about tonight are actually all articulated in that there's different levels, and students can enter at the graduate certificate level or the master, but can also exit at all 3 levels, so graduate certificate or graduate diploma or the master. There are 2 intakes, session 1, session 2, so you can start either in March or mid-July, and this course is online, with some residential schools where students come on campus to do some of the practical activities. This next course is our Master of Sustainable Agriculture, which develops students' expertise in analyzing and balancing natural resource, human and economic factors that impact on agricultural sustainability. Again, the course is made of core subjects and electives, and in our electives, we have some very popular subjects such as climate change, which is very topical. Again, there is also a small dissertation in the master, which students can complete on a topic of their choice and with supervision from school staff. The course is articulated with a graduate certificate, graduate diploma, and the master, and students can enter the course at any of the three levels and also exit. So you could start with the grad cert if you're a bit uncertain, and then if this is going well and you want to continue, then you can upgrade to the graduate diploma and so on. And alternatively, you could have the other situation where students start with a master, think, yeah, I'm going to do a dissertation, and then maybe that's not practical, or it's just not what you can do at the time, and so you could graduate with just a diploma or a certificate if things change. This also has 2 intakes in March and in July, and the course is online but also on campus. And so in that situation, students can do some subjects online, but also some subjects on campus. So really mixing the different modes of studies and what works for you. The last course is the Master of Viticulture and Oenology. And this is my background because I'm a grape and wine chemist. And we do a lot of, and I do my research in this area, so we do have very strong connections with industries, wineries, vineyards, and we conduct research projects on commercial vineyards. We had a big 5-year project a while back with a vineyard in Young, 2 hours north of Wagga, a vineyard in Mildura, and also a vineyard in near Adelaide. And that was also in collaboration with CSU. So really collaborative research, which we then integrate into our subjects, or the subjects that we teach. Recently, one of our wine chemists developed a new benchtop assay to measure copper in wine, which is something you need to know because it can speed up wine spoilage and also influence the flavor. And if you're in a research institution, you can measure copper with a very fancy and a bit expensive machine. But if for the industry, then they want something that's really fast, and then they can do with an equipment that's not too expensive, like a spectrophotometer. So that the industry wanted this. It was developed in a research project by Charles Sturt staff, and now is used in the industry. And we also teach our students about those new methods. So the way the course works, there are two streams, one in viticulture and one in oenology, depending on which aspect of the industry you want to specialize in. And there's also different levels depending on the student's background. So, and that's because we have quite a varied range of background. So we have students who it's a complete career change where the background is not in science, and in that case you may need to be required to complete some introductory science subjects, chemistry, microbiology, botany, or soil science. But we also have students who complete the course as more as a diversification. So for example, a graduate from agriculture may want to specialize or diversify in viticulture. And then we also have students who have done either viticulture or wine science at undergraduate level, but then want to complete the other discipline. And so that can be done with this course. Like our other masters, there's also a small dissertation on a topic of your choice for at the end of the master. The course is also articulated with a graduate diploma, which you can enter at this level or exit at this level. It's not offered full-time, so you've got the duration, the part-time duration here. But with the master, the dissertation could be completed full-time. And so in that case, that would be 2.5 years. It has a session 1 and session 2 intake, noting that the session 2 intake is only for students who have a background in grape and wine or will come in with some credits. And it is fully online with some residential schools where you come on the Wagga campus and complete practicals. So on those, during those res schools, it's all about hands-on activities, whether it's in the winery, a laboratory, or on the farm. There could be some site visits, staff and peer interactions, guest speakers, and also group work. The res schools, the residential schools, are timed at given periods every year, and in session 1, it's in mid-April. For the wine and viticulture subjects, because April is a very busy period for people who work in the industry, it's vintage, those res schools are actually in June, July. And then for the session 2 subjects, the residential schools are in end of August, beginning September. Res schools typically 3-4 days, 9 to 5. There may be some work to be done after hours and preparing for the following day. They're intensive classes, and they're intense for everybody, but students get a lot out of it, and it's great to have that interaction with the students as well when you're studying online. Most of our residential schools are on the Wagga campus, because this is where we have the facilities and the equipment with the farm, the winery, but we also have some residential schools on the Orange campus where the Master of Sustainable Agriculture is located. So this is a video, and this is actually my, my very own PhD student who has just submitted a thesis. We will be sending you the link after this presentation because it doesn't play all that well. So Charles Sturt has lots of different scholarships, and some may be just for everybody to apply. Some may be specific to the course. So for example, we do have scholarships just for wine and viticulture students. Some would be for agriculture students. Yeah, it could be just $200 voucher to buy textbooks, or it could be you know, $5, $10, $30,000 to support your studies. If you want to have some more information, you can definitely book a virtual or one-on-one virtual consultation. I'm more than happy to organize Zoom meetings with any students who would like to discuss further. And there's also some more information on our website.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Great to have a big crowd here. Kidding? No. Okay. So I'm talking about postgraduate courses in the School of Environmental Sciences. Once again, Yinjimara Winhangana to those who are here. That's a phrase that we use here at CSU. It means the wisdom of respectfully knowing how to live well in a world worth living in. So it's one of the principles of Charles State University is we very much take our Indigenous cultural heritage seriously, and it's embedded in all of our undergraduate courses, and we certainly encourage our postgraduate students also to get that ethos out of their time here at CSU and to take that into their future careers, into their workplaces. So we have an acknowledgement of country, which we have before most events at Charles Sturt, certainly staff audit meetings. So it's just it's almost like a reflex to us, and it's something that we all live and breathe. So just like to make an acknowledgement of country, we pay our respects to all First Nation elders, both past, present, from the lands and future, from the lands where Charles Sturt University students reside. In particular, we acknowledge the Wiradjuri, Ngunnawal, Gundungurra and Biripi peoples of Australia, who are the traditional custodians of the land where our campuses are located. And this might be listened to by prospective students and people who are curious from all around the country, so we certainly pay respect to all of the elders and other Indigenous peoples from there, and indeed from overseas as well. So welcome. So yeah, I'll just be giving a bit of an overview of our environmental science postgraduate courses. We have quite a variety. Talk a little bit about these other aspects about skills and residential schools and overseas experience and the whole CSU package, which is fantastic. So I'm Matthew Hunt, I'm course director within the Faculty of Science. Been around a variety of universities, don't need to go into the biography too much, but did my undergrad at ANU, did honours at ANU, then went to the Uni of New South Wales where I commenced research, worked in Faculty of Science up there for 18 years. Well, sorry, it says 19, I don't know, it's about 18 or 19. Then came down to La Trobe University and then moved over to Charles Sturt in 2014, so it's been wonderful. So been around the traps, and I absolutely love Charles Sturt University. It's a different university, it's a unique university, and Katie and the various other staff and lots of other people at CSU can tell you about that, but I'm always available to tell you about what we do here at Charles Sturt and why you should indeed come to study environmental sciences at Charles Sturt. Okay, next slide. My little window is blocking that, I have to move it. So Charles Sturt, it's one of Australia's most experienced online education providers. It really is the trailblazer, and I think a lot of people, depending when you're listening to it, but in the middle of COVID, we've actually coped very, very well because we were one of the pioneers in online learning, distance education. So the postgraduate courses I'll be talking about are offered online with some face-to-face on-campus opportunities as well. The university has more than 70 online courses, and I'll be talking about 5 of those within our school, or 4 or 5. We are flexible. We like to cater to each, to the student. We can certainly work with you. We know people are busy. We know people have very crazy lives, whether you're working part-time, whether you've got children or responsibilities, whether you travel, whether you need to take a block of time off. We can work with you on flexibility of the progression of your course if you do come to study with us. You can certainly, for a lot of the courses, you can do the majority 100% online and never set foot on a Charles Sturt campus or physically be in a room with your lecturers or fellow students. or you can have a lot of face-to-face on-campus experience, and we can help you with that, and we can get that balance right. We want to make it work for you. We want you to get the course outcomes. Even if you are not on campus, CSU does, Charles Sturt does have a lot of linkages. We have campuses all around the state, but we have study centres as well. So if you're a Charles Sturt student and, I don't know, you live up the North Coast, whenever you're in the Port Macquarie district, you can of course come and use the Port Macquarie facilities, or if you're in Canberra, Dubbo, Wagga, etc. So there's a lot of opportunities as a Charles Sturt student because we have such a network of facilities and campuses. So like I've already alluded to this, but we can, as course directors and as a faculty, we can work with you to make the to make study and the course fit your lifestyle. A lot of students like to accelerate their course and try to graduate and get the skills and knowledge. They might have a bit of time off work. At the moment, we're getting quite a bit of interest in these courses because of people have, they might be in isolation or working from home and they want to upskill. So you can certainly accelerate, you can reduce your study load, you can take leave of absence, you can do subjects over summer, you can do, so there's a lot of flexibility. And we will work to fit it around your life and your needs. We have, due to our regional and metro crossover campuses, we have connections with industry across the country. Talking about environmental sciences in particular, we have a lot of experts here physically based at both Port Macquarie and Albury campuses, but also with a network in Orange and Wagga and various other campuses as well. We certainly work tightly with private consultancies, with government bodies, local land services, and the various catchment management agencies. We have a lot of networks, which is one of the other wonderful advantages for our Charles Sturt students, because we can line you up with placements, we can line you up with industry connections to get your foot in the door, which is often, it's half the battle. You'll get the skills and knowledge from our wonderful subjects and academics, and you'll be doing wonderful things, and you'll learn so much about environmental science, about climate change, conservation biology and everything else. But along with that, you will have that CV being built along the way. You'll be getting industry contacts, and you can contact me as course director, you can contact the faculty, and we can certainly line you up, and we do that. So we can, which is one of the reasons why our graduates have such wonderful graduate outcome rates. The highest in the country in environmental sciences and in most of our fields. Because you come out with professional experience and you come out with a wonderful transcript and skills and knowledge to balance it. So I'm kind of going back and forth a bit because I think I've covered a few of these, but for starters, we are a very different university. We have, like I've already said, we have a lot of regional New South Wales campuses. So we're tapping into all kinds of environmental issues. I'm physically based on the Albury campus, which is it's on the Murray River, but it's in the Murray-Darling Basin, as are most of the northern campuses as well. But we have a lot of researchers working with the Murray-Darling Basin Authority and various other catchment management agencies looking at water resource management, looking at inland fisheries, certainly looking at all kinds of ecosystems with water birds and amphibians and everything down in the Murrumbidgee Plains and everything else. So we're ideally located in Albury. We have a physical presence of environmental sciences at Port Macquarie, and there we have a different set of kind of environmental local habitats where we're dealing with coastal and resource management. We're getting links there. We're relatively new up there. We've run the environmental science courses up there for this is now our second year, but we have strong linkages with the Port Macquarie Koala Hospital and the various other parks and wildlife agencies up and down that stretch of coastline. So we have very large industry networks in both of those regions, but also we send students out to the Northern Territory, we send students to South Australia, and we send students overseas. So we do have a lot of links and associations, and we can help you get to where you want to go. Sorry, just reading that last dot point. So all of our lecturers are experts in the field. it always blows me away as course director, but our ornithology lecturers get flown overseas to present at various, and they are the world experts in various aspects of ornithology. Similarly, with our aquatic ecologists, Lee Baumgartner spends the majority of his time in Southeast Asia, helping them to work with their fisheries in the Mekong Delta, and we have some very, very high-profile ecologists and cultural heritage managers in our school. It does blow my mind sometimes because I have been at some different types of universities like ANU and UNSW, but I can guarantee, and you can come and have a look or you can talk to me, but we are cutting edge at research, teaching, and also with that industry experience. So it really is wonderful for graduate outcomes. Just to talk about our, I guess, our credentials there as well. We are Australia's first certified carbon neutral university. We practice what we preach, I guess you could say. I'm in a rammed earth building here. Actually, I think the next slide might as well just jump on. So these are some pictures from Albury campus. So this building which I'm in right now is one of the only public buildings in the Southern Hemisphere that has composting toilets in it, and it works wonderfully well. So we work in a sustainable campus. We are carbon neutral. We use solar power to generate electricity where we can. Some of those pictures are showing some of the residential accommodation, that one at the top, and the one in the middle on the right is the building which I'm in, which has these big water tanks which help to, not just for water storage, it helps to cool the buildings, cools the buildings during summer and actually warms the buildings during winter. So anyway, we have a lot of unique design. It's a different campus. So if you were to go onto any other Australian campus, you wouldn't have a lecture theatre like that big theatre there, the CD Blake, which is a lecture theatre in Albury, which is actually underground. It's covered in a mound of earth and it's using all these natural heating and cooling systems. So it's a really enjoyable campus. I don't have any pictures of it, but there's a wetland out my window here, and we have 80 species of birds. You can go over there. There's migratory raisin snipe from Japan, come over here outside of their breeding season. And so they've done a lot of amazing things at Albury, and a lot of students in these courses will have the opportunity to come to Albury to meet academics, but to attend residential schools and attend field trips and those types of things. So I'll get on to the courses. This first one, Graduate Certificate in Fish Conservation and Management. It's a brand new course. It starts, well, it kind of starts now in the second half of this year. It's only just been designed with industry input. It's to meet demand. So most of you would have heard about the fish kills over last summer throughout Eastern Australia with the inland fisheries. So this is a unique course. It was very much designed to treat both global fisheries issues and fish conservation issues, but domestic issues as well. It's the only course in Australia which deals in particular with inland fisheries. So various other unis talk about marine and coastal systems and so saltwater fisheries in effect. This particular course, it is dealing with inland fisheries. We have a lot of new infrastructure here and researchers who are leading the way with the Snowy 2 development down in the Australian Alps. And they're looking at a lot of issues. We work closely with DPI fisheries. So there's a lot of projects going on, and you'll learn about fish movement and migration, in particular in relation to human impacts and invasive species, carp moving upriver and all the other projects. So you'll be learning about aquatic engineering using fish ladders, which is what our researchers are currently doing, and they're training up students who are interested in this field. There is a lot of demand for this type of work. You'll get a lot of practical hands-on skills. You'll be doing electrofishing and tagging fish, which actually takes a lot of with ethical approval. So you learn about animal ethics and a little bit of animal husbandry there as well, about handling and keeping these fish and then releasing into the wild. So that's a new course. It is a graduate certificate, so it's I guess a short course to finish, I guess you could say. It has 4 subjects in it. I don't know if I've got those subjects listed, but so it has a couple of core subjects which are brand new, which are being developed, and they'll be running next year for the first time. They'll have residential schools here at Albury campus. One is on fish ecology and conservation, and the other one is on fish migration and movement. So they will be back-to-back residential schools, and if anyone's curious about these, you can certainly contact us. You can put your email in the chat box or whatever. I can see a few people have joined. I don't know if this is the particular course, but we can have questions and ask and answers afterwards, which course you're interested in.
Yeah, Matthew, I've just got a question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the entry requirement for this course and what master degree would it lead to?
Okay, well, as far as a master's degree, I'll start that first because it is a graduate certificate, but you could certainly then, like, if you did complete this, you could then enter the Master of Environmental Management, and it would make sense in either a conservation or a water resources area. You could use this as a stepping stone, definitely. You could also technically enroll in the master's course and do these subjects within it, or a subset of these fish conservation subjects. But if you particularly wanted this, because it is a new qualification, and we know that the various agencies out there, government and consultancies, etc., each state department has a fisheries or an inland waters department, and we've had a lot of, we've been getting advice from them, and quite a few of those people are coming to do this particular graduate certificate. So this could certainly lead to a master's or a graduate diploma. It is by itself, it's a standalone graduate certificate, but you would get, for instance, you would get credit. So if you did this course, graduate certificate, you could do it full-time in half a year. Normally, most students would do it in a part-time progression, doing 2 subjects per session, or even 1 subject, depending on your commitments, if you're a full-time worker, for instance. Once you completed it, you could certainly articulate into a Master of Environmental Management. Probably other programs as well. You could combine it with GIS and remote sensing. You could probably combine it with a variety of other postgraduate qualifications as well. So that was half the question, wasn't it, Katie, about the master?
Yeah, and the other one was about entry requirements. I've got it in front of me, but do you know it off the top of your head?
The top of my head would normally be an undergraduate qualification in a relevant field or industry experience. I can't remember.
Yeah, so it's those ones. It's also an honours in any field.
Sure.
And yeah, relevant work experience for at least 5 years.
Yes. Now we can. I certainly talk to students about this because it's a non-accredited space. We don't have an external accrediting body. I do talk to students individually about what they've got, what experience they've got, and we talk about pathways as well. So whether you don't meet the entry requirements, we look at other opportunities. You could do a single subject study, for instance, without formally being in the course, and then once you've shown your aptitude and your capability. So depending, yes. So whoever asked, it's a very good question, but yeah. So those are they're the published entry requirements. So if you've got a bachelor's degree in a relevant field or an honours degree in any field, or yes, those other, or you've been working in an environmental area. So it says a relevant area. If you've been working in whatever, public service or for in some kind of environmental area, can be quite broad. If it's environmental education, if you've been working in a legal department or in a commerce department with some kind of environmental management aspect. So it is a good question, and I'm very happy to pick that up with the person that asked it. And it's kind of relevant to the rest of these courses as well. I can't remember what the next course is. That's down. Okay. Okay, so that's a new course. Now we're moving from fish to birds. The graduate diploma and the graduate certificate of ornithology. These are unique courses. There's no other course, certainly in the Southern Hemisphere. There's one other ornithology course in Cornell University in New York, in the US, which does offer some units in ornithology, but we are the only university on the planet that has a suite of postgraduate courses devoted to the study of birds and avifauna. They are wonderful. They are fantastic, and it's only a relatively addictive field. And if you are an ornithologist listening in, you've already got that bug. I was never an ornithologist. I did all my work in marsupials before I joined Charles at uni. But now I love, birds is my thing, and I'm working with ornithologists, and I've always got the binoculars with me looking around in the wetlands. So we've got world experts here. And you can certainly go to the CSU research pages and look at what David Watson and what Melanie Massaro and Maggie Watson and these various other ornithologists do. They're world experts in the field. You will learn about all aspects of avian biology. You learn about avian reproduction, about migration, about the physiology and anatomy, about flight and feathers and everything else. You'll certainly learn a lot of evolution and taxonomy and systematics, a lot of behavioural ecology. You learn about captive breeding of birds, and you also have opportunity to go out into the desert with Professor Dave Watson, and you'll be able to contribute and go out and study birds in that semi-arid region and contribute to many, many years of ongoing field work out there. Soon I'll talk about overseas experience, but we also have some ornithology, not ornithology specific, but we have trips to Nepal, and we have ornithologists in Nepal who are then leading zoologists and ornithologists who take us into some wonderful parts of Nepal, for instance, and Bhutan. So if you're an ornithologist who's looking to go overseas and get some behind the scenes expertise, we can certainly cater to your needs as well. So it's a wonderful course. It does, yeah, it's something for students who are interested in birds, but there are certainly jobs there as well, because you get all kinds of conservation skills, all kinds of environmental management skills from learning in this field as well. So it is an articulated set. So the graduate certificate is made up of 4 core subjects, 2 in first semester, or 2 in session 1 and 2 in session 2. So you learn ornithological methods and avian biology in your first day, running the first half of the year. We also have a mid-year intake. In session 2, there's the core subjects on avian systematics and on avian, the one on ecology, the population ecology subject, changing for next year. So it's on population, it's on avian population and community ecology, runs in session 2. So 4 subjects make up the grad cert. Then with the graduate diploma, there's a bit more flexibility. You'll do a bit more behavioural ecology. You'll learn a bit more about captive breeding of birds. You'll also have the option to pick up some electives. That's also where the international trips happen, and they happen around the year. At the moment, we're actually not running any more international trips, obviously, for the duration of 2020, but we're certainly planning to get those back on board for next year, and I'll be talking about the international trips soon. These are online courses. Some of the subjects do have compulsory residential schools, so you will come to Albury campus and do, for instance, the ornithological methods, where you'll be in the lab, you'll be preparing skins of birds, you'll be going out to some of the local areas to do bird surveys and bird counts and everything else. Okay, so the third course I want to talk about is the Master of Environmental Management. This, I guess you could say, is the umbrella. It's more of a standard, or it's more of a, I mean, with the other ones, they're unique to Charles III. Master of Environmental Management is virtually your passport to getting into any of those management issues to deal with climate change, with ecological conservation, with biodiversity. Certainly, you can see those specialisations at the bottom of the slide. You graduate and you select a specialisation to follow. And again, there's a large range of subjects within those specialisations. You can navigate this master's and never set foot on campus, or you could do a bunch of subjects which have residential schools. You could go out to the desert on a field trip. You could go to Nepal. So we can very much customize this, like that middle point says, to balance with your work, family, and lifestyle commitments. We can make of it what you will. There are lots of careers in environmental sciences and environmental management. Some people who like being out there in the company of people. So certainly with community engagement, with cultural heritage management, all those types of areas. Or you might be more of a person who likes working with big data, and you can be more of a landscape analyst, working with the GIS and spatial sciences, and also some of those kind of more data focused aspects of the course. So there are jobs out there. You know there are jobs out there. I don't need to talk to you. If you're listening in, I don't need to talk to you about what we've done to the environment and the need for a lot of qualified environmental managers and environmental scientists. There is certainly work there. We've made a mess of the place, and so we need to train people up. Whether it's in water resources, we're certainly a recognised expert in that field here. We also have some staff up at Wagga who teach into this with some of the water policy and management subjects up there as well. So with the legislation, you'll get that. You'll also get the ecology, the hands-on flora and fauna aspects, lots of vegetation subjects, also some of the Indigenous subjects as well. You can build some of those in, and we certainly encourage that to learn some of the Indigenous Australian knowledge and cultural heritage aspects as well. So depending on what you're interested in, contact me, and you'll get all those details after this presentation, and we can look at those opportunities as well. I'm kind of doing this all over the place because I wasn't very prepared, but that first point, once again, I spoke to it about it at the start too, with those industry connections, and that's one of the wonderful advantages of being a Charles Sturt student. So we can get you there, we can get you into all those projects and resources spaces and get you lined up with various providers around the country. So the phone's making a buzzy thing. Okay, so this is a larger, this is an articulated set. You enter at the master's level. Some students apply for the master's and have the intention of just doing a small number of subjects to build up skills and knowledge in a particular subset, which they might need for their career or for their particular interests. I have no idea who's trying to call me, but it's on mute, but it's buzzing away. So you can certainly come in. Now, there's no entry at the grad cert or grad diploma level, but it is an articulated set. So you can apply for the master's with the intention, I want to do one GIS subject, I want to do a conservation subject, I want to do a water policy subject, and get a bit of a sampling, and you can exit at the grad cert level. You can exit at the grad cert level and then continue in your master's program. So you might need that as a stepping stone qualification. So anyway, it is quite flexible. Most students are here to do the master's, but there are exit points if you're just after a certain particular, whether you need a qualification or whether you're just after a certain number of subjects to get some skills. We have a couple of intakes. We have session 1 and session 2 intakes. So March and July sessions generally. The study mode is online, and like I've already said a couple of times, you can do the whole course online, or you can do some subjects come to res schools, or even, yeah, so there's a variety of opportunities there. Okay, another course, Master of GIS and Remote Sensing. Spatial Sciences is a massive area these days. I'm not as techno as others. Sorry, the phone is ringing. I don't know what they're trying to get me for. So with Spatial Sciences, we use them in every field. If you're using Google Maps, you're relying on spatial data. If you're using anything to do with your phone, you're looking at spatial data. So spatial data is used across the sciences. It's actually cross-disciplinary. It's with medical, with epidemiology, with tropical disease. It's used in marketing. It's used in human resource management. It's definitely used in a lot of those commerce and business fields. So spatial sciences is a growing field. We particularly look at geospatial science, so we're looking at geographical and ecological data. We do a lot of work in the remote sensing fields using satellite imagery, using satellite technology, also using drones and those types of tools now as well to do ecological kind of sampling and management. So this crosses over as well. It is in that agricultural space. There's a lot of precision ag and digital ag as well. It's a growing field. It's been used in all kinds of climate science as well, you know, a lot of the mapping areas as well. So this is a particular field. We get a lot of students coming from defence. We get a lot of students coming from councils and town planners who are looking for this field because they're using more and more of this GIS technology. This is very much more of an online, so this is entirely online. There's no residential schools, but we do always offer the opportunity for students to come on campus and talk to the spatial science lecturers. We also try to run each year, at least once a year, sometimes we do it in each session, we run a face-to-face session off campus. So sometimes we've run them in Sydney before, we've run them in Canberra before. And we'll certainly advertise those opportunities. Students travel from all over to go to these weekend workshops where a couple of the spatial science academics will be, and you can sit down with them, talk about the subjects, talk about careers and all those types of things. So for those who are, I guess, more into the, or I get, if you're interested in spatial science or interested in those IT and programming, all those aspects, to deal with, you know, in an environmental management sense or in that kind of ecological sense, this is a wonderful course. Again, session 1 and session 2 intakes. It is online, 100% online, with some opportunities to come on campus. We send out the software, so you'll get the ArcGIS software. I mean, it'll be available. You'll download. You'll have access to all of that. You won't just be sitting off doing your own thing. We'll have a lot of online interactive tutorials because it can be difficult if you're new to the field. You can spend weeks actually being stuck not knowing what to hit within the programs, but you will certainly have ready access to your tutors and lecturers to help you with this. It's a wonderful course. Residential schools are one of the things which happen in the life sciences, I guess you could say, or the natural sciences. There are practical things that you will need to get. So for lots of the courses, you will need to come on campus at some point to meet the lecturers, to meet your fellow students, but particularly to get those hands-on skills and practical skills. So with the fish conservation and management, for instance, you will come to Albury because we've just invested a lot of money in state-of-the-art equipment here with all of the water movement through all their the fish migration simulators, which they've built on campus, which is all hand in hand with New South Wales Government and the Snowy 2 project. So we've got those here. You can work with those. You'll be doing, you'll be looking at the otoliths of fish and aging fish. You'll be going out locally and doing electrofishing. Similarly, for the ornithology subjects, like I've already alluded to, you will be doing some wonderful hands-on studies of bird anatomy, physiology, and going into the field and handling birds with misnetting and other practices. So you will be getting those. The residential schools generally run for 3 or 4 days. They tend to be at Albury campus, although I must admit we have a few running at Port Macquarie as we start to more expand up at Port Macquarie. So some of the red schools might be at either. You might also get, like I alluded to, some of the water subjects do run out of the School of Ag and Wine Sciences. And you might, with the list of electives, you know, there's opportunities to do other subjects as well. So the red schools are great. Most students actually love them. They can be difficult to get to, but all of, you know, the vast majority of the students, it's a good chance. A lot of students come in here and sit in my office and we have a chat. It's so fantastic to meet the online students. Definitely, just as they exactly get all the same privileges as a regular internal student who's here every day. And it's always great. And it's amazing to see how the students, once they go to a few residential schools, they meet their classmates. And it's almost like a reunion every time. And you're actually becoming quite tight-knit in a very close community. So the red schools are fantastic. We do have overseas study tours, which are available to all of our postgraduate students. And I've been to Bhutan and Nepal with these trips. And in all cases I've been, you know, there's certainly been a handful of postgraduate students and they bring a lot to the table. So it's a mixture of undergraduate, postgraduate, online and internal students come on these trips. And they're fantastic. They're not just a sightseeing experience. These are study tours. So there is work involved, obviously. There's assessments both before and during and after the study tours. You keep a reflective journal. But some of the wonderful things is you'll certainly be going with a staff member, but we have contacts in all of these, in a variety of countries. We particularly have contacts in the 3 countries listed on the screen. Bhutan is a country very hard to get to. It's a kingdom which is very tight on letting tourists in, but we have an agreement to send students over there each year. Nepal as well, we have partners over there who I've mentioned earlier, but you get behind the scenes. So you go to Chitwan National Park, not as a tourist, you'll be in there with the rangers, you'll be looking at anti-poaching measures, you'll be looking at, you know, rhino conservation programs. Up in Annapurna, we live with the locals, we talk to the locals, we look at snow leopard conservation, but we also look at a lot of the other natural resources. And the cultural resource heritage is very important. So we get immersed, we look at the religious histories, you know, the Buddhist aspects of Bhutan and Nepal, the Hindu aspects of, you know, around Kathmandu. And it's wonderful being up in those Himalayan nations. Similarly, we have a similar trip to Cambodia, which again has a fascinating socio-political history, obviously. So we do go to places like the Killing Fields to get a bit of an overview of what's been happening there. We look at government policies to do with their environmental conservation. We go to Angkor Wat and look at some of the cultural heritage aspects as well. So these are wonderful and they're available, and students get overseas fee help as or as some funding, some Vice Chancellor's funding postgrads as well. So I won't harp on too much about those, but it's another really great thing about Charles Sturt courses is that we can offer these. These, of course, are on hold for 2020 because of COVID, which is unfortunate, but they'll be running again next year as we start to plan them out. So what's next? Sorry. Oh. So scholarships, for those who have just joined, we did talk about these earlier, but there are lots of scholarships out there for postgrads as well. They're not just for undergraduate students. You can get funding to come to residential schools because that can be expensive. So we certainly have funding available for students if you put a course, if you put in an application and you need assistance with residential accommodation or travel or those types of things. Certainly lots of smaller amounts are available for purchase of textbooks and various course fees and student amenity fees and those types of things. There's lots of scholarships available, so there's the link. You can have a look at that because that could help you with your decision to come to CSU. It might offset some of the costs. And talk to Katie, who's kind of who is moderating this, and also talk to myself and Celia, and we can help you with those things as well. Okay. So finally, now this is not so much me, this is more Katie and the lovely teams that we have here in Student Services and the Division of Student Admin. We have a lot of fantastic staff here at CSU who can talk to you if you've got any questions, but you can certainly come and talk to us as well. You can talk to your course directors, there are course admin officers, you can talk to the lecturers. So if you find a lecturer online and very interested in what they do, they will be really, really happy to talk to you. I was leaving the building earlier and one of our professors in cultural heritage, I told him there was a master's student interested in Indigenous cultural heritage. He said, send me their number. And you know, we're that kind of uni. So we're here for you and we want you to come and learn from us and get out there and change the world.